صلوات.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
So before I came up, one of the brothers was asking about the iqama. I already said this before, that the iqama is not wajib for namaz. Adhan is not wajib for namaz. In other words, you can just walk up and start your namaz. But of course, we have some major thawab and rewards for the azan and iqama that will blow your mind. So we don't want to miss out on that, inshallah. It's very mustahab. Very mustahab. Okay, so now the brother was asking, I was in a place where the shaykh, he was going to pray. He said the iqama to start the prayer, and then someone came and asked him something or told him something, and he responded. So after this little 10-second dialogue took place, this shaykh started to do the iqama again. What's the reason behind that? The reason is that it's makruh to speak after you have said iqama. It's makruh. And from what I remember, it's I think they said it's mustahab, yes, to repeat iqama if you do speak. If you do speak, to repeat iqama. Because it's as if this iqama is like part of namaz almost. It's like you're getting closer and closer to namaz. I think I remember reading, I'm not sure about this one, even turning your head around when you're saying iqama and all of that isn't supposed to happen either. Isn't supposed to happen, meaning that it's better for it not to happen. Yes. So this is one rule. Another thing is that we talked about music before, yes? I heard that some people had misunderstood what I said, and they said Shaykh is saying all music is halal. No, I didn't say that. And if you wish I said that, I didn't say that. Yes, I said some forms haram, some forms halal. We have to see what our dear maraja say about music. And I explained on Saturday night, but we'll have to cover a little bit more to make sure. I will even bring what the maraja say, inshallah, on my tablet. Their books that they have right now online, like Rastani. So we just read off of it. So we see that is Shaykh making things up, or is the Sistani saying these things, you know? So, inshallah, that's for another night though. Inshallah, the Q&A session when we have, because there's a lot of explanation left about that. Do we have any questions about anything ahkam related? Because we're still waiting a little bit. Think hard. Come on. There must be something.
Fitra. Is Fitra, we're supposed to give it before the Eid, or on the Eid day we can give it?
Fitra, yeah. Zakatul Fitr is something that is to be given after the sun, after Maghrib, or Ghurub or Maghrib of the last day of the month of Ramadan. It's to be given after that. You can't do it now. You have to either put it aside then or give it then. That's one. Another thing that people ask is this, fidya. Have we heard of fidya? Fidya is also referred to as kafara. We have different forms of kafara. The famous one that we're familiar with is which kafara? When someone breaks their fast purposely without any reason. The kafara for that, of course, we all know, 60 days or 60 poor people fasting, or 60 poor people feeding. Okay, so we know that one. That's usually the kafara that we've heard. Now there's another form of kafara that's also called fidya. Okay, and it's not because you sinned necessarily that it's called kafara. And that is for people who are, for example, sick. The people that are old in a way that they can't fast anymore. The sheikh and sheikha, it's referred to in the books. And other examples that we have of other people that will have to pay this fidya. What is this fidya? Those people who cannot fast. For example, someone who's sick, and this sickness that they have continues till the next Ramadan time. Okay, so think about it. You have a sickness that doesn't allow you to fast, and this sickness extends all the way till the next Ramadan time. You never got the chance to make up those fasts that you missed. Okay? These individuals, they're fasting, they don't have to make up those fasts anymore. Okay? Instead of doing that, what they do is they have to give a fidya. This is one group. Another group, the sheikh and sheikha, as I said, those who are old and can't fast, they also have to give fidya instead of fasts, the fast of those days that they weren't able to fast, which is the whole month, right? Okay. The question is two things. What is this fidya? One. And two, when can we give this fidya? If I'm a sheikh or a sheikha, I'm an old individual that cannot fast, can I just, when the month of Ramadan arrives, just give my fidya from the beginning? Or no, do we have to wait until the end? What I've read is that they say you have to wait. You can't give it in the beginning. You have to wait, and then after those days that you haven't fasted or passed, then you give the fidya. That's one point. What is this fidya now? Usually they will tell you it's 750 grams, right? A little bit less than a kilogram, 3/4 of a kilogram of ta'am. What is ta'am? For example, wheat, bread, rice, any of these things that has to be given to the poor person. And one mistake that I think is made is usually that they think that they can give the money of it also. You can give the money of it. But if you give the money of it, they say you have to tell that individual that please buy these things with that money. This is important. Okay? Sometimes you can give the money of something and they can do whatever they want with the money. Because we have different monetary laws of Islam, right? But here, for example, if you give zakat to the poor, when you give them zakat, like the zakat of amwal, I'm not talking about zakat of fitr, or even zakat of fitr, you don't have to tell them, okay, you make sure you buy food with this. But here, this fidya, because originally the ruling is to feed a poor person with 750 grams. Now that you're not feeding them, giving the money to them, you have to make sure that that money, you let them know it is used. And you have to be sure that they're going to use it. If I'm not mistaken, be sure that they're going to use it for that. If you trust them and you're sure they'll use it, you give it to them, that they'll buy bread or rice or whatever with it, wheat, or other things that the Risala Amaliyah has explained. So it's not like you can go buy anything you need with this. Okay? Inshallah. If there aren't any.
Instead of wheat, you can give a flour.
Flour? Yeah, flour is also like wheat. Yeah. You can even get cooked bread. I've also seen this as well, according to Ramadhan. Once again, I explained these rulings. Make sure, if you want to make sure though, you go to the book of your marja to read it, to make sure the details are the same. For example, I will have read, for example, Ayatollah Khamenei. Usually I'll tell you, if there's a difference, I'll tell you there's a difference of opinion here. Here, for example, in these rulings, I don't remember any difference between these two. But if you want to make sure, 100%, you can check your marja as well, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi tahirin.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Continuing the verses of Surah Al-Insan that we were covering. ويطعمون الطعام يوفون بالنذر ويخافون يوما كان شره مستطيرا ويطعمون الطعام على حبه مسكينا ويتيما وأسيرا. So we reached this verse that what makes so special what they do, these individuals, these abrar, these verses are talking about, what makes it so special is that they are giving this food away that they had. We all heard the story in the previous nights. That they're giving this food away ala hubbihi, while they have a deep inclination towards it because they're hungry. That's what makes it so special. And we said that it's not that it's because out of what makes what they're doing so special. It's not because of them doing it because of Allah, because of their love of Allah. Because lots of people give things in the way of Allah while they love Allah. What makes them stand out and what they're doing stand out is that they're doing it while they have a great need. They have a great love for it. They're human beings. I explained this yesterday. Now, we have other verses in the Quran too that talk about the same exact concept. Here, we're talking about abrar, right? If you remember, we're talking about abrar and they're giving things while they love it. Two other verses that we have that have the exact same wording. It's interesting. Number one, Surah Baqarah verse 177. Laysa al-bir. Righteousness and bir is not that you turn your heads left and right to the east and the west and all these kinds of things, but Al-birru man amana billah, whoever has faith and in the hereafter, in Allah, in the angels, in the book, in the prophets, وَآتَ الْمَالَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ, and gives mal and wealth عَلَى حُبِّهِ, while he loves that wealth, but he still gives it away. Here we have the exact same thing. Bir equals giving stuff when you love it. In Surah Al-Insan also, they're giving it while they love it. And we have a third verse, with the famous one, Surah Al-Imran, verse 92. لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرِّ, you will never reach, again, bir. You see, in all of these, you repeat, the same concept is repeating itself. Bir, 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 in all three. What does bir equal in these three verses? لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرِّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. Once again, what you have love of. You see, the Quran explains itself in different verses. Allah Ta'ala, he had this method of doing tafsir of Quran through the Quran itself. And after him, many people have tried to do this as well. Okay. يُوفُونَ بِالنَّذْرِ يُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا يَتِيمًا أَسِيرًا. Yesterday I said there's a point here to make about asira, prisoner of war. Prisoner. The question arises that what is this prisoner all about? What are we talking about here? These verses were revealed in Medina. What happened in Medina is that the Muslims were now allowed to fight back, to defend themselves. And there are some nice lessons here to be learned. In Islam, we don't have the concept, you get slapped on one cheek, turn the other cheek and get slapped. Yes, we have forgiveness. We have overlooking others' faults. We have all of that. Yes, true. But if you see that you're being oppressed, you don't just say, okay, please continue oppressing me. You don't allow that. In Islam, we don't have this concept. But rather, we have the concept of when you stand up and you defend yourself because of your faith, because of your ird, your wealth, because of your namus, because of whatever it is that Islam has a sensitivity towards and puts its fingers on and says, I want you to be sensitive towards this. Our ghira has to be there. So we stand up and defend. Very simple. This is how Islam is. Okay, we don't turn the other cheek. Now, what's the story though? Has it always been like this? Yes, it has always been like this, except about 13 years or so of Islam, we didn't have this concept. When am I talking about? What time period am I talking about? Before Medina. Before Medina, when the Muslims for 13 years in Mecca, the Prophet was calling to Islam, they were not allowed to fight back. They had to be patient, that's it. They were not allowed to, there was no permission. So what would happen? They would come to the Prophet with injured heads and injured faces and bloody faces. The Prophet says, just be patient, be patient, be patient. So we'll ask ourselves, why? What is the point of this? We'll get to that they have to be patient. Why are they not supposed to defend themselves if defending yourself is so important that later on Islam says, no more. I don't allow you to turn the other cheek. Surah Hajj verse 39 is the turning point, they say, the Mufassirin say. Is the turning point after which the Muslims began to defend themselves. What does it say? أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. Permission has been granted to those who are being fought against. يُقَاتَلُونَ. War is being waged against them. Permission has been granted to them because of them being oppressed. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. And Allah is powerful enough to aid them. This is the turning point after which the Muslims were able to defend themselves. And which battle did we have first? The Battle of Badr. And the Battle of Uhud and all of those happened afterwards. Before that, did we have any fighting or not? We didn't have any fighting. Now other verses have also been claimed to be the turning point and the permission that Allah granted. But this is the clearest one, they say. Why? Look at the verse. أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ. Permission has been granted as if before there was no permission. You see how these words in the verses are very important to help us. Now Shaykh Mutahari here has an interesting point, and others also have said this, and it has a lot to do with common sense, something that the Shia school really pushes for. Common sense. When it comes to analyzing history, analyzing the endeavors of the Prophet and the Imams and so on. Why is it that the Prophet said no fighting in the beginning? Well, first of all, of course, the Muslims were weak. So you don't want Islam to die out right in the beginning, because if they start fighting back, they will bump it up a bit. And things will get even more violent. But other than that, Shaykh Mutahari has an interesting point here in his book of the polarity of Imam Ali. There he says this, he explains this, that listen, the Prophet, the reason why he didn't allow any of this, and Allah didn't allow it, fighting back, is because these people first have to understand why they're even Muslim, have a good grasp and understanding of Islam and Tawheed. You can't just send people to the battlefield before they even know anything about their religion. Why? They'll flee. Imam Hussein, how many times did he filter his companions from the night of Ashura onwards? Before that, he was making sure everyone comes, whoever, so that no one has an excuse later and says, oh, if we knew that what Imam Hussein is doing, we would have come. No, in Mecca, in Medina, everywhere he's making noise about his movement. But when he reaches Karbala, and those final days, final nights, now he's sifting. He's sifting because he doesn't want people to flee on Ashura. And then history is going to tell the story of how his companions left him. No, he makes sure that everyone is ready. Those who want to become gold will become gold. Yes. So the Prophet also, what does he do? And he says, listen, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what Islam is all about first. The culture of Islam, the ruh and spirit of Islam, what it's all about. I want them to learn that first. And then when the time comes, we will start to fight back. Or else everyone's going to desert me. And it's interesting that even though he did this, still some deserted him in the battlefield. Like in the battle of Uhud, they say, the Prophet was saying, Ilayya ya fulan. After things went bad in the battle of Uhud, and the Muslims who were winning started to lose because of the mistakes of some of those that were in the army of the Prophet, they say some of these individuals who were known to be great companions of the Prophet, they fled. And the Prophet is saying, Ilayya ya fulan. Come to me, come back, protect me. Not because I need your protection, you need to be with me. But no, they were fleeing. And then history calls their names by fulan. You see this word a lot in history, fulan, fulan. They don't say the names. And then when you see others explain why the names weren't said, it becomes clear. Because some of these individuals are very highly revered. And in order to keep unity, they say we're not going to say their names. Not from our school of thought, but from other schools of thought even. Okay. So this is why, according to Shaykh Mutahari and others, that the Prophet and Allah, Islam did not allow the first Muslims to fight back. Now what do we see? We see on the other hand, and I've also heard some of the ulama say this myself, they say that we see the exact opposite of this model after the Prophet passed away. What happened after the Prophet passed away? After the Prophet passes away, all of a sudden you have conquest after conquest after conquest. In the beginning, there were false prophets that came after our Prophet. It's very famous. People, liars and false prophets who came and said we're prophets. Now, the central government after the Prophet, which is Abu Bakr and his team, he sent out armies to destroy these liars. And they did do that under the command of Khalid bin Walid. Now slowly when these things happen, wealth and war spoils begin to come towards the central government. So people are seeing that, wow, look, we're in good shape now. More and more wealth is coming. More and more conquests take place. More expansion of the Muslim empire. But we see that when Imam Ali takes over, what does he do? Do we have any more expansion? No, they say he stopped all of this. When you ask some of the ulama, they'll tell you the reason was because you are expanding, but you're not, once you take over and overthrow these different countries or whatever it's called, you don't have the people to propagate Islam in them. So they're becoming Muslim, but how? Forcefully. What's going to happen later in the future? They'll turn against you later because they don't know what Islam is all about. You have to have those who will go and propagate Islam the same way the Prophet did. Take care of the infrastructure, so to speak, of these people's minds, and then you can say, okay, let's expand more and more. But when you look into history, because of the amount of wealth that is coming towards the Muslim empire, because of these conquests, more and more expansion is taking place. And the people liked it, by the way, let me tell you that. The people liked the fact that war spoils are coming in. War, back in the day, was awesome because you could bring in more spoils. Everyone was after the war spoils. And that's why they say when Imam Ali takes over, people don't like it that much because now not too many war spoils are coming in. And even when they do go to fight in the Battle of Jamal, for example, and Imam Ali's army wins, people now want to divide the war spoils. Imam Ali says, they're Muslim, what are you doing? You're not allowed to divide them. Not only that, they said, no, what about the war spoils? We want war spoils. He says, okay, you want war spoils? Here is Aisha, the wife of the Prophet. Whose share is she going to be? Everyone's quiet. Aisha, what are you talking about? He says, okay then. We can't, if we can't take her as war spoils, because as we all know, they would take bondswomen back then, as bondswomen as war spoils also. He says, okay then, I rest my case. There's no such thing as war spoils in a Muslim, in a fight like this. So people slowly don't like the fact that, we have to fight, but there's no compensation. Aziz, my friend, Imam Ali is your compensation. Jannah is your compensation. If they had stayed with Imam Ali long enough, they would have been able to destroy Muawiyah. And all the problems that we have today wouldn't have been there. But they did not stick with Imam Ali because of these things. Anyway, one might ask, why is it even important now? You described Asira, that the prisoner came to their door and knocked on their door and asked for food. Now you explained that these verses must have been in Medina, because in Mecca there was no fighting, there was no prisoners of war. So now a person will ask, what is the point of even proving that these verses were revealed in Medina? Lots of times, brothers and sisters, knowing where the verses were revealed will help you in understanding the verses. Here is one of those examples. How? I hinted at it yesterday, and I'll explain today. If we believe that these verses were actually revealed in Mecca, as some, which are a minority I think, do, that means that in Mecca there was no Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein were born where? In Medina. Imam Ali married Fatima Zahra alayhi salatu wasalam when? When did Imam Ali marry her? After the battle of Badr. After the battle of Badr they married. Okay, so they were born in Medina. Okay. So if they're not born in Mecca and these verses are revealed in Mecca, then these verses are not talking about this story of Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein being sick and then Lady Fatima and Imam Ali alayhi salam doing that nazar and all of that. All of that will go down the drain. You see how important it is just to be able to prove that these verses were revealed in Medina and not in Mecca. Wow! Because there are some out there who believe that these verses are not talking about this story. What's your reason? Because these verses were revealed in Mecca. Now we also have, though, from the Sunni school, people who prove that these verses did come in Medina and it is talking about this story, and they have some interesting points that we'll get to maybe later. And the person actually turns out to be a Salafi. A Salafi. But not of today, from like 300 years ago maybe. He's one of the great mufassirin of this Sunni school, and he happens to be a Salafi too. Why am I saying this, that he's a Salafi? To let us know that it's not very black and white, brothers and sisters. We have to get on top of our game. Because today, you see even Wahhabis, go on YouTube, you'll find it. Wahhabi Sheikh, he is reciting the Masayib of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Not reciting the way we do, but he's reading the history for like 2.5 hours. It's a 2.5-hour video, it's online. To do what? To prove that yes, we also acknowledge that Hussein was killed, and he was killed out of transgression and oppression. We want to show that we also love Ahlul Bayt. Who says you're the only ones who love Ahlul Bayt? So we have to know that, okay, it's not that black and white as we thought. Oh, they're all Nasibis. They're not all Nasibis. We have to have good reasoning. We have to know what's going on, inshallah. Okay. And then once we do that, our iman becomes even stronger in our own faith. Okay. So this is why we want to know where these verses were revealed. Now, regarding this prisoner, I have to say this as well, that there's differences of opinion, although the major opinion here is that this prisoner was a prisoner of the kuffar in the hands of the Muslims. But there are other speculations here. What is important here though is a question that comes up. When someone's a prisoner, Can they go around knocking people's doors for food? This is a good question. Prisoner and prison are usually intertwined. What does prison mean? That means you're behind bars, not in front of the bars. Or else it defeats the whole purpose of being a prisoner. Yes? Prisoners of war, though, first of all, they're not necessarily criminals. Just a person that happens to be on the other side of the battlefield and fighting against us. If they were criminals, then the Prophet would kill all of them when they were POWs. But no, the Prophet keeps them alive. They're not all criminals necessarily and bad people. Sometimes they don't know the truth. The verses of the Quran say in the middle of the battlefield, in battle, if someone comes to you and says, tell me about this, Tawheed and all these things. وَإِنْ أَحَدٌ مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ إِسْتَجَارَكَ فَأَجِرْهُ حَتَّى يَسْمَعَ كَلَامَ اللَّهِ. If a mushrik comes to you, in the battlefield and says, give me a thing, give me safety, I want to ask you some questions about Kalam Allah. Give him safety, take him to the side and explain to him Islam. That's what we're fighting for in the advent of Islam. These battles, that's what it was for. Give him refuge. And then once you tell him what Islam is all about, don't raise the sword now and say, okay, now you better believe or I kill you. And it says, no, take him back, let him go, let him think. That's what our deen is all about. Okay, so now, going back to what we were talking about, these prisoners, all of them weren't criminals and all of them weren't supposed to die right away. Okay, so now they're taken prisoner. The Prophet, they say, what he would do, during the Prophet's time, there was no such thing as prisons, they say. No such thing as prisons. What would he do? These prisoners of war, they would take them and he would divide them up amongst the people and say, take care of them. Take good care of them. Feed them and all that kind of stuff. The problem is the people back then aren't very rich. Times are tough back then. So sometimes these prisoners who were in the families of different people, they wouldn't have enough food. They would have to go and ask for food from others for them. And sometimes, if that person was trusted enough, that prisoner, he himself would go and knock on people's doors. Yes, sometimes these prisoners loved the families that they were in. And they were inclined towards Islam, but yet they were still prisoners. But so these people are trusted. Now they're the ones going around. Now, whether the person that knocked on the door of Imam Ali alayhi salam was the prisoner himself or he was accompanied by someone else watching over him and all that, we don't know. But what we do know is that the prisoner is free, roaming here and there with somebody or by himself and is asking for food. Now does Imam Ali say, oh, he's a kafir, don't help him and all that kind of stuff? Or no, this family gives whatever they have to this individual. These are the Ahlul Bayt we follow. Yes, later when the Islamic Empire expands, then you have prisons and prisoners and all of that. And those are supported and funded by the treasury of the Muslim Ummah or Baytul Mal. Okay. These last points that I said are from Ayatollah Makaram Shirazi, by the way. Let's move to verse 9. And what they say in verse 9. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. Here we have a line. So Allah is talking on behalf of others. He's the one who's speaking in these verses. This is what they do, this is what they do. They fulfill their nazar, they feed the poor, they feed this, they feed that. All of a sudden, it's quoting them and what they say. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ. Verily, we are feeding you and helping you for what? For the face of Allah. The wajhullah. لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. We don't want any thanks from you. We don't want any compensation from you. Okay. So it's as if, here it seems Allah is quoting what they said. Yes? We're going to talk about that a little bit. Is it something they actually said or not? But before that, let's talk about wajhullah. Let's break down the smaller parts of this verse and then look at the whole quote in its entirety. Wajhullah is in this quote and what they say. We're doing this for wajhullah. Question, does Allah have a face or not? Well, if you're Wahhabi, yes. If you're not Wahhabi, no. In Medina this year, actually, we had this discussion with one of our Wahhabi fellow, whatever you want to call it. I was debating with him and he said, this whole story of God having a hand and God having a face came up. So I said, does he have a face? Does he have a hand? And what did he say? He said, yes. And I did a double take. I'm like, what? So he has a face and hand, but not like us. His face and hands aren't like us, but he does have it because the Quran said so. I'm like, okay, have you not heard of metaphors? Have you not heard of the surah of the verse of the Quran that says some of my verses are metaphorical, others are decisive and certain? You have to bounce these off of those. Haven't you heard this? Have you not heard this? The verse that says, "Laysa kamithlihi shay." There's nothing that's like Allah. Allah is nothing close to what you have in this life. So now you're saying He has a face and hands, but not like us. Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean it's like an 8-fingered hand? What is it? At the end of the day, it has to be a hand, you're saying. So it has to be something like this. That you're bringing Allah down. Philosophically, you can't do that. You can't say Allah has a hand and a face. Anyway, we don't believe Allah has a face. It's metaphorical here. It's metaphorical. So what does a metaphor do? Brothers and sisters, a metaphor is there to get a message across in a stronger way than normal words would. For example, I'll tell you, brothers and sisters, haven't I told you 1,000,000 times when I speak, listen to me? Well, I haven't said that once, but now, this will make it once. But if I say it like that, what am I trying to get across? I'm trying to get across the idea that I've said it many times. What do I use though? I use the word million. Million is a figure, is a number. It denotes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 1,000,000. But is that true when I say that? Of course it's not true. It's not true. It's metaphorical though to get something across. To highlight the fact that I've said it more than enough. Yes? Alright. So when we use metaphors, we're trying to get a message across, a concept across, and kind of highlight it and emphasize it. Alright. Here, when it says Allah has a face, we have to go back to ourselves and ask ourselves, okay, so Allah doesn't have a face, so it's metaphorical. What is that meaning Allah is trying to get across? Or those who are saying this are trying to get across? Well, here, when you look at Mufassirin, they say, the face of something is what is used to give attention to somebody. For example, someone's walking that way, I say, so-and-so. It turns around and looks at me. Even in the animal kingdom you have this. Those deer that are grazing, if they hear a noise, what happens? They put their attention where the noise is. In other words, what do? They turn their faces in that direction. Yeah, those of you who have gone hunting, white-tailed deer. I've never done it, I'm just saying. The smallest, slightest sound turns its head, and it's almost iftar time, and we're talking about deer and roasting it and all that kind of stuff. Alright, it's alright, it's okay to wasful aish, nisful aish, they say, to talk about pleasures and good life. You know, although you don't have it still counts kind of. Alright, so when attention is given to something, the face is used. Okay? So now you can probably guess what I'm getting at here. The more attention, the more the face turns. Sometimes a little kid is talking to me, I'll look a little like, here and there, I'll also look at him and stuff. Sometimes I give the whole face to somebody. Yeah? Sometimes if I want to really give someone attention, I'll cut my face off and I'll hand it to that person. Alright, so the face is for giving attention. Apparently, when they say we are doing this for wajhullah, they want a special, undivided attention from Allah. This is what the Mufassirin are saying. We're doing what we're doing for Allah's face. I want His face. I want His attention. Maybe you could say it in this way, maybe, that they're not after the Rahmaniyya of Allah here. They're after the Rahimiyya of Allah. The special Rahmah of Allah. When they ask you, or when you ask, what's the difference between Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim when we say Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim? What's the difference between these two? They will tell you. Rahman denotes the special, the general, all-encompassing, widespread mercy of Allah. The fact that He brings everything into existence, whether it's Muslim, non-Muslim, whether it's human, animal, whatever it is. But then Ar-Rahimiyya is that special Rahmah that He has for His special ones. Apparently here, they're after this part of the mercy of Allah. That Rahimiyya, you can say in a sense. Allah is saying that this special extra touch that my face has, that's what they're after. Okay. Now that's with wajhullah, and we have this other places in the Quran too. But if you want to translate it, saying the face of Allah might not do justice. Maybe it's just better to translate it as we are doing this only for Allah. Okay? Sometimes if you say face of Allah, someone reads this, they'll be confused. What's going on, the face of Allah? And might even cause problems. Does God have a face or not? You can get across the message by just saying we're doing this only and solely for Allah, or for His love, or something along those lines. Now the question here that comes up is, when they're giving their food to somebody and helping someone out like this and going out of their way, what point is there for them to say this in that person's face now? Yeah, think about it. Someone comes up to me, brother, can you help me? I have a problem. Okay, fine, here, somehow. By the way, I'm doing this only for Allah's face, and I do not want you to thank me, and I don't want your compensation. Does that make sense? Like that person will say, here you go. You can have your money back. And I had some change too. Here, take some change and just please shut your mouth and go. I don't want your help. Yeah? What does it mean that Allah here in the Quran says, is quoting them and they're saying, we're doing this only for Allah's face and we don't want any thanks from you and any compensation from you. What is meant by that? If they say it, doesn't it kind of edge on riyah and showing off even maybe? Maybe. They're examples for us. So does that mean I have to do this? We have in the Quran, Surah Baqarah verse 264. O you who have faith, do not render your charities void by reproach and affront. This is what the translation says. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Don't render them batil and void. Through what? Through reproaching, through bothering. Adha means, comes from adiyat, to bother somebody. Bothering him after you've helped him. What point is there? Or favor, minna, putting minnat on them. I did this for you, I did that for you. For the rest of your life, when you see me, you got to put your head down because I helped you. I favored you, I did you a favor, and so on. As I said, he'll go and he will get a loan from somewhere, pay you back, so that you shut your mouth. Allah in the Quran is saying, "La tubtilu sadaqatikum." Don't mess up the sadaqah you give with this. Which on the side, let me open a parenthesis here. Remember the other day I said there are two major conditions for our a'mal to be accepted by Allah. One was what? Iman. The other one was what? Taqwa. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. If I'm not a mu'min and I'm not a muttaqi, Allah, the Quran is saying very explicitly, will not accept my good deeds. In the sense that He will not accept them, my iman won't raise that desired effect that we won't get out of it, although He might reward us. But getting closer to Him has two major conditions through our deeds, these two that I said. Now there are some deeds that have more conditions. For example, salat. When I pray, we have hadith that the amount that you know what you're saying and paying attention in your salat is how much you gain from that salat. In other words, is how much it's accepted by Allah. If I start my salat and I end it and I don't know anything that I said and I didn't pay attention to who I'm talking to, yes, I will be rewarded, inshallah. Because at the end of the day, Allah says, even this namaz, I want it. It's better than nothing. So I'm doing it because Allah said so. He will still reward me. And this is part of taqwa. But that very, very desired effect of salat that we're after, which is to grow, mi'rajul mu'min, is what the mu'min uses to do uruj and go up and ascend. This desired effect will come if I am a mu'min, 1. 2, I have taqwa throughout the day. And 3, I pay attention to my salat and I know what I'm saying. Yes? So some of these a'mal have an extra condition. Sadaqat, the Quran is giving us an extra condition. You have to be mu'min, yes. Muttaqi, yes. Plus, لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. Don't destroy it with all the stuff you say afterwards and all the baggage you put on that guy's back afterwards because of this help that you gave them. You help them, you go after your life. You don't care anymore. It's as if you gave it to Allah and He's going to invest it for you. Yeah, it's like you go to somebody, a broker, you say, I want you to invest in some stocks for me. You give him money, and you give him money, you're like, yeah, look at me, I give you money, I give you money. He's like, bro, you give me the money, so I work on that money, and I invest it for you, and so I yields results for you, yields profit. You didn't do me a favor. If Allah is the one who's taking it, and he's investing it for me, why bother that individual that was the wasila for me to give him to invest my money, for Allah to invest my money? Allah says, I'll invest for you, but you have to go through this person, this poor person. So we have an extra condition here when it comes to sadaqah. Now the question that everyone has is, these individuals who are giving, who are the Ahlul Bayt, who are giving this poor person, this miskin and yatim and asir, why are they saying this in that person's face after that? Isn't it defeating the whole purpose? Does it not hurt that person's feelings? You give it to them, you say, I'm giving this for Allah, not you. Don't thank me. Don't compensate. No, it's very clear here that Allah is quoting to us what they said, not verbally, but their intention. If you were to change what they had in their minds to writing, this is what was in their head and in their heart when they gave in the way of Allah. And this is good if we sometimes help out to just go over this verse in our minds, inshallah, when we give in the way of Allah and we help in the way of Allah. There are a few more points about niyyah and intention that inshallah we'll cover tomorrow, and how important intention is, but it's not everything, and how we have some misunderstandings in this regard. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.